Hey guys, this is George with Firehouse Music, and today I want to talk about the next step in our music theory series. Last time we were talking about intervals and how they work independently from each other and everything else, but that's not how it works really in music. Those sounds get put together and they form chords, and the simplest chord that we have is called the triad. So let's take a look at that. Let's start with our staff here. So once again, the triad is the simplest one of chords, and let's start by talking about how chords are built in the West, in Western music, as opposed to Indian or Arabic music. The chords are built by stacking thirds, and if you remember your intervals, right, it's when you go every other note. So if we're building, say, a C chord, we have a C, skip the D and then play E, skip the F and then go to G, and we end up with a triad or a three-note chord. This is the simplest type of chord that exists, and there are 4 different types of chords depending on the intervals that we have in here, right? So the one that you see right here has a major third, because once again, if you remember from last time when we talked about, if it's part of the major scale, we only have major and perfect intervals. So we have a major third and a perfect fifth, okay? So now a minor triad would be the same thing, except that our third is minor. That's why the chord is called minor, right? So we have a minor third and a perfect fifth. The next triad, so let me start labeling this thing. So we have major here, minor. So the next type of triad that we're going to have is a diminished triad. The diminished triad, we're going to keep our minor third, but now our fifth is going to be diminished. So that means here, E flat, G flat. And I'll explain again, even though we talked about this during the intervals video, I'll go into detail as to how exactly this is happening. And then finally we have our last type, which is the augmented triad. The augmented triad, we have a major third and an augmented fifth. Okay, so this is the diminished. Sometimes it's represented by a 0. And then we have our augmented triad, sometimes represented by a plus sign. Okay, so if we were to look at the symbols here, this would be a C, this is a C minor, this is a C diminished, and this is a C augmented. Okay, now you may be a little bit confused about how the different intervals are, like how they change from major to minor, from augmented to diminished. So remember from the interval video, and if you haven't watched it, go watch that, because you definitely need to understand intervals before we look at this. When the flat lowers your note by a half step. So that means that if I have point A right here, right, and I have, let's say that my third is this far away. The moment that you add a flat, you're moving this point back by a semitone, effectively making the interval smaller, okay? That's what's called minor. If you take a perfect interval and do the same thing by adding a flat, again, you're making it smaller, and that's when it gets diminished. The sharp, on the other hand, let's take the same example. If you add a sharp to it, now, make that sharp more recognizable. That's a little bit better. Not that good, but it's better. So now we're trying to move that note. That actually moves the note further away. So the distance gets bigger. That's why we have major intervals and we have augmented intervals. Okay? Now, this sometimes creates an additional confusion, additional problem. Because everything, and it works exactly like this when you have a natural key, like in the case of C major, there's no accidentals, so when you add the accidentals, it's easy to recognize when an interval is altered. But this is true across all keys. So, if, let's say, we're working on a key with a lot of accidentals, like let's take E major, okay? So E major, in the key of E major, we're going to have 4 sharps. So we have F sharp, C sharp. Let me move my labels up. Let's do that. Major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Okay. So in the key of E, we're going to have that and that. Right? Should have left room. Let's do this. So then, the major chord doesn't matter. It's going to be C, G sharp, and B. Okay. Your minor interval now, or your minor chord, is actually going to have a natural G. G natural, and B. Your diminished is going to have the natural and a B flat. And your augmented is going to have your G sharp, from over there, and it's going to have a B sharp. Okay? You might be saying, yeah, but B sharp is the same thing as C. That's true. But it's what's called an enharmonic equivalent. With that, let me make sure that looks like a B, because there. So when that, if I had made it a C note, we'll be talking about the 6th degree of the scale, because remember that we number, if you look at the chapter in the major scale, there's a video on that as well. We were numbering our notes from 1 through 7, right? So if I'm talking about C, now I'm talking about the 6th note. Well, triads are made by 1, 3, and 5. So I can't use C. I don't care what kind of C it is. Same thing. I can't. So because of that, I have to maintain that 5th degree, which is B. But yes, I have to reach that higher note. How do I do that without changing the B? By adding a sharp. That's also true when you have a note that's already raised. Like let's say you have something like an F sharp, the key of F sharp. In the key of F sharp, you have almost all the notes sharp. Right? So you have C sharp there, you have A sharp additionally, and you have E sharp on top of that. So again, the chord here doesn't change. F sharp, A sharp, C sharp. Okay? Now, your minor is going to have an A natural, which I didn't write. Your diminished is going to have also, in addition to the A natural, C natural. So we're going to have C, A natural, and C natural. So F sharp, A natural, C natural. But we run into the same problem up here with this one, with the augmented, because we have F sharp, A sharp, and now we need to raise that. Well, it's already sharp. What do? Double sharp. A double sharp, yeah, it's the same thing as D. But we have to use C, because that's the 5th degree in the key of F sharp. Otherwise, we'd be talking about something different. Now, when we deal with accidentals the other way, meaning we're dealing with flat keys, we run into a similar problem. Let me just erase this. We run into a similar problem, but with the minor and diminished intervals, because this thing is dying now. There. There. So let's say we have something like the key of E flat. Yeah, E flat would be a good example. So we have B flat, E flat, and A flat. The first chord is the same. So E flat, G, B flat. Your minor chord, again, you just add the accidental, no problem. E flat, G flat, and B flat. On the diminished, that's when we run into trouble, because now we have E flat, G flat, and B is already flat. So we have to add a double flat. Then our augmented is no problem, same thing. So E flat, G, and B natural this time. Okay? So what's important is the distance between those intervals. Once you understand that, then this becomes a heck of a lot easier to understand. Take a look at that. Again, probably a good idea to start learning them in the key of C, and once you have that together, then you can look at some of these other credit share keys. Once again, if you have any questions, you can ask me in the videos. I'll be happy to respond, or send me an email. You can reach me via email. Just go to my website, www.firehousemusic.net, and just email me from there, and you can get a hold of me that way as well. That's all I'm going to say about this, and I hope you enjoyed the video. We're going to continue to explore more and more complex concepts like this, and as always, don't forget to subscribe and share the video if you think somebody else needs it. See you guys next time.